Hey there, I'm Chris Benetti, host of the Smart Author Podcast. In this episode, I speak with Lori Lynn and we discuss the best kept secrets ghostwriters use to write bestsellers. I think learning and understanding more about ghostwriting is really important because it can help you determine the best path for you to take as a new author writing your book. If you're currently struggling with writing your book, then this episode will be perfect for you as it will give you the steps and tools you need to consolidate, write, or hire someone to get your book out the door. Some of the main topics we will be covering today include Lori's best kept secrets from her years as a ghostwriter, the number one tip to become a better writer, and how you can use your book to brand yourself, build your business, and change the world. At the end of this episode, please make sure you visit our website where you can find all of the show notes plus links mentioned with Lori. If you're enjoying this episode, please make sure you subscribe so you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. And if you're struggling with book sales, head over to smartauthormedia.com/audit to get a free audit and a clear plan to get your book sales back on track. Now, let's head over to this awesome interview. Hey, smart authors, welcome back to another episode. Today, I'm joined by the lovely Lori Lynn. Lori, how are you?
Oh, fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic now that I'm speaking with you. Lori, can you give everyone a bit of a 30-second to 60-second background catch-up of what you do in the space?
I'm obsessed with books, as demonstrated by the wall of books that is behind me. I have another wall in the other room. So I've been referred to as a book architect, a book midwife, a ninja editor. I just am really thrilled to be able to take ideas that people have, mostly people who make money with their mouths, and help them look as smart on the page as they sound from the stage. So mostly I help to edit books that grow people's businesses.
As smart on the page as they sound on the stage. You've practiced that one a few times. I love it. Well, it must be interesting, with working with people who are in that space. Like, I'm sure you have turned down quite a few clients. Like, what determines the type of clientele you work with? Do you have like some set core values that you strive to aim for when you're working with a client?
Oh gosh, absolutely. So because we have to go through all of the content over and over and over and over and over and over and over, first it has to align with my values. If I read it and I feel icky, it's an easy no. Whatever you read, whatever you consume becomes part of the fabric of who you are. And so if I feel like it's something that's going to help me grow and learn and be a better person, then it's an easy yes. If I know that the person that I'm helping to grow their business is like their heart is to help people and not just make a buck, then it's an easy yes. But if it's someone that is kind of a fly by night, here today, gone tomorrow, doesn't really care what product they put out as long as it makes money, that's an easy no. So, there are a lot of things that we weigh when we decide who we want to work with. Another big thing is when I'm doing ghostwriting, I have to be able to listen often to what my authors are saying, whatever they produce, whatever they're publishing for their audience. I have to be able to capture that voice and write as that person. And if I don't feel like I can do that well, then, again, it's an easy no.
Sure. I can imagine that there's, it's pretty hard when you have people who are in that camp of like being icky or like salesy and like they just don't have good values. And it's interesting seeing those people want to write books when books are such a legacy play as well. It's such an authoritative asset that you can develop for yourself, and people just like come in with the wrong intention and they expect the book to change the way they're doing things, but it's kind of like an extension and like an expandment of yourself. And if you do it the wrong way, you're going to be expanding the wrong things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've often heard that money is an amplifier, like it just magnifies what's already there. Books are the same way. So whatever there gets amplified and then multiplied, and it becomes really clear, you know, what's on the inside based on what's produced on the outside. So you're right.
So like you talk about branding yourself, building a business and changing the world when you work with authors, when you write for authors. Can we expand on that and like go into your thesis around those kind of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Have a really great example of that. So I have an author, hold on. I love this guy. So David Kesey, he wrote a book called Find a Way. And he'll say, I didn't write that book. He did. It's all of his ideas, but I took all of his ideas and put them into a beautiful package called a book. And he said that from a branding perspective, you know, he had already branded himself as a top coach. You know, he's driving a Jaguar and he's traveling around the country and he's a former professional baseball player and he's magnetic, you know, he's got this big personality and he's super fun and charming and kind. And then I come along and help him with his book and his business doubled in a year. And he said it wasn't just because of like running ads to a book funnel and, you know, that helped. But he said that the positioning that happened when he goes into an event to speak, and there are all these other speakers, people who walk in and see on the back table that book with his picture on it, and then turn and see him on stage, there's this shift that happens in them where before, you know, they might have been skeptical. They weren't sure like who this person is, where he came from, but now they can go and open up his book, see his story, see the authority and credibility that he's established by writing his own book. They buy the book, they join the coaching, the business explodes. So he's essentially branded himself as like the Find a Way guy. And his story is all about how he found a way. I won't ruin it for you, but, there's nothing that creates authority and credibility like becoming an author. And you can brand yourself online in a lot of different ways, but it's kind of like, you know how on the beach you have like all these beautiful seashells, but then the waves come and then they just wash them away. Books are more like the sand dunes that are there for a really long time and they don't go away. Like the books that are on my shelves behind me, some of them are older than my grandma, you know, and she's 92 next month. So once you kind of, you know, draw your line in the sand and build your sand dune, then you don't have to worry about the ocean coming and washing everything away. You've established this authority, credibility, your brand. This is who you are. This is the area that you occupy. And then people know what they can come to you for. And then they do over and over again, and then share your message with other people. I tell my team, like, first of all, books are not emergencies. Like sometimes we get all panicked because entrepreneurs move fast and they want everything done yesterday. But also, books are the best way to change the world. So no one ever says like, oh, that Instagram reel changed my life, or oh, that TikTok changed my life. No one says that. But how many times have you heard somebody say that book changed my life?
Yeah.
And take your message and put it in a book and make it permanent. It will dramatically affect your brand, your reputation, your bottom line. And I've seen it over and over and over again.
Yeah. And one thing you said there as well is like, they read my book, they, you know, enter my world, they join my coaching program. I'm like, okay, yep. So, and that's what I see as well. You know, books are fantastic authority builders. They're fantastic ways for people to enter your world and see you as a solution for a particular problem that they're having. And, you know, if you do things well, you know, you also mentioned a book funnel. That's a way for them to be able to enter your world, and you're able to then control the journey they take with you. And, you know, you're able to also show them what next offers you have that will further help their development as well. And I think that's just, it's a fantastic system in general. It's really effective.
Yeah, the funnel is what helps them continue the conversation. So authors are the best clients in the world to work with, and readers are the best clients in the world to have. So readers are leaders, people who listen to podcast interviews. So whoever's listening, just know you're in the top like 5% of people who listen to something, read something, try something, stick with something, and become more successful, have more discretionary income, have a higher level of intelligence. You're unusual, And so if you have those pieces in place, then you know that whatever you're producing is going to spark a conversation, and then being able to capture that person's information and continue that conversation. Now you have a relationship. And that's what it all boils down to in the end anyway. Like, none of the stuff that's around us we get to keep, it all like decays, but the relationships that we build are really what last. And so that's another beautiful thing about having that funnel piece, because you get to continue the conversation and tell your audience who loves you, like, this is my next book, or this is my next event, or this is someone I want to introduce you to, you know what I mean? So it creates that ripple effect. It's really beautiful.
So you've worked with quite a lot of influential people, like people like Dan Henry, Myron Golden, and like heaps of others, right? I want to know, like, is there any best kept secrets that ghostwriters have? Like, how do you get in such an efficient way the knowledge from the influential people you work with into, creating a book? Like, do you have a process for that? Is there special things that like the general people don't know about?
The first thing is, I've read a lot of books, a lot of books, and I've read a lot of them out loud to my kids as a homeschool mom. So I started reading early. And so I was in shock when my son didn't start reading fluently until he was about 10, because I think I was reading when I was 5 or something. I mean, I've been a voracious reader. So I have kind of that story DNA built into my bones, like I know how a story is supposed to flow. So that's helpful. I have a degree in writing. That's helpful. But the thing that I do over and over and over again is I get my authors' voices in my head. So when I was taking hikes, before I was working on Myron's book, which by the way is beautiful. I love this book. It's so pretty. It's Boss Moves by Myron Golden. I took some of his talks and I dropped them into a program called Hero FM that was developed by Carla White, who's in the funnel space. So I listened to him over and over and over and over, hours and hours and hours and hours. And I listened to his podcasts. I listened to his live YouTube videos. Like, whenever he was publishing, I was listening. So then I started to create a map of when I started to see people really engage with his content. I'm like, okay, that's what needs to come first, because as he says, you sell people what they want and then you give them what they need. So on the front end, we're selling them what they want. So they open up the book and they're like, oh my gosh, this is gold. And then what they really need is the mindset stuff, which we sneak in on the back end once we, lock them in on, oh, this is amazing. What else is in here? It's like, oh, I gotta grow. So I would say that the secret that I have is, and I'll add this too. I've done a lot of acting. And as an actor, you have to be able to fully embody the character that you're portraying. So I have practice not only with reading lots of books, but also with becoming another person, being the character of another person. So I step into that role when I'm ghostwriting. And ghostwriting is often just taking transcripts of what people have said and pulling out all of the repeated words and all the ands and uhs and ums and the rabbit trails and figuring out where they go and being able to just structure something beautifully. Ghostwriting is not in, and I will get on a soapbox on this. Like I cannot stand to read a book that has been affordably ghostwritten, because it's like fake cheerfulness, like you can do it, and it's all exclamation marks, and it's like pieced together without any of the connective tissue. And so it feels like Frankenstein. Like it looks like a book, like Frankenstein looks like a human, has all the right parts, and they're kind of in the right order, but there's no soul, So I think the secret that I bring to the table, that amazing ghostwriters bring to the table, is being able to capture the spirit and the soul of what's behind those words and the energy behind those words, and present a product that doesn't feel like a bait and switch. So when listens to Myron Golden or Dan Henry or David Kesey, they hear them speaking in a certain way. And when they open that book, they need to be able to hear their voice when they read those words on the page, so that energy and that essence and that spirit and that soul has to come through. So if you have a gift for that, become a ghostwriter. There's a lot of work out there, and I can't do it all. But that's a big secret, is being able to capture that energy and then translate it to the page.
Do you find it difficult to build a team around ghostwriting? Like, are you still the star of the show, or do you have people who can effectively help you develop books as well?
A little of both. So yes, it is not easy to find people who can do what I do. And I used to get really frustrated. And my middle daughter, who's now 15, probably 13 to 14 years old, she said, "Mom, you're like Flash from The Incredibles. You're like superhero fast. And the people that you're running with, they're like Olympic athlete fast. Like they're really fast. But you're like superhero fast. So you got to cut them some slack." Like, oh, okay. So yes, still very much kind of, the superhero of the show. I'm the one attracting new authors because I'm just that girl, I'm easy to talk to. I'm not afraid. I'm not intimidated to talk to people who are making, 8 figures. I had no idea who Dan Henry was when I reached out to him to have him on my podcast. Like I genuinely did not know. And aside, my youngest got to be in a music video with Florida Georgia Line and Tim McGraw, and they're like huge. I had no clue. When I saw FGL, I thought it was like an industry term, some sort of acronym. Anyway, I kind of I live in a book world, so I don't see a lot of videos and movies and television and all. So because of that, I just approach people as people. And I think a lot of the people that I attract to help me with books, they're intimidated by talking to 8-figure earners, influential people, or they have some experience, but not the depth of experience that I have with, like I said, with acting and homeschooling. So I have a very unusual set of skills that I even sold cars after I graduated from college because I just didn't want to be in a building anymore and people were outside selling cars. I was like, oh, okay, well, that looks like fun. So I did it. So I have an interesting, and varied background. I am finding that the people that I've been working with over the past couple years are ramping up. And I was just telling one of them today, Mary, we were on the phone talking about a book we're working on together. And I said, it's so beautiful to be able to see you start to feel when something feels out of place. It's like, I can't put my finger on it, but it doesn't feel like this goes here. What if we moved it here? And what if we called it this? And what if we switch this around? And I'm like, I'm so proud of you. I just love it. I love seeing people grow. And I love the role that I have right now in helping people develop their skills. And I could stop what I'm doing today, and the people that I've been working with for the past few years could continue on and be able to support themselves and their children. And like, I could cry thinking about it. Like, I cannot imagine a better gift, then being able to help particularly women. And as a single mom with 3 kids, you know, I started my business full time after my divorce, not knowing how in the world I was going to make it. And now not only am I making it, but I'm also helping other women do the same. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's what came out.
I love that. And I've got a very specific skill set. I immediately thought of like Liam Neeson in Taken. Like you just hear like, I'm not sure. I mean, you don't watch movies. I'm not sure if you've seen that or not. Hopefully someone gets the reference. So like what can authors or these influential entrepreneurs, what can they do to help set a ghostwriter up for success?
Oh, give them as much content as possible, as much of their best YouTube videos, their best podcasts. And by best, I don't mean the ones that they love the most. I mean the ones that their audience loves the most. So the messages that they've tested and they know like this is really landing, this is resonating, this is the thing that, you know, my audience keeps coming back for more. I can't tell you how many people who are just getting started think that they have a message, but they haven't tested it. And so when you, as an influencer, know what your audience is reposting and hashtagging and tagging you in and sharing with other people, like if they're liking, sharing, and reviewing and it's all positive, that's what you want to give a ghostwriter, because that will make our job so much easier, because we know already that they're going to love it. We just have to make sure it's written in a way that conveys your voice, you know, your tempo, your tone, your volume, like all of those things we can do by, and it's amazing. I mean, they're literally just little scratches on a page, you know, little letters on a digital screen, but somehow we're able to take that magically and turn it into a message that compels people to action or makes them feel like they can do something that they didn't think they could do before. So yeah, the biggest thing is test your message over and over and over, and then give your ghostwriter the best of the best.
So generally you would say if people haven't gotten to that kind of stage, they're probably a little bit too early to have a ghostwriter write a book for them.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm sure
100%.
you get a lot of people like that come through who are like, I want a book, but I don't post content. I'm not a publisher.
I mean, I actually had someone, and this was a while back, but they were set on writing a book, and they just knew that I was going to be the one to edit it. And they sent me some content and I was like, is this a journal entry? Like, I'm not sure. What is this? And they're like, oh, well, I thought it would be a good introduction. And I'm like, let's try again. I'm like, okay, well, what's my next assignment? And I'm like, send me something I want to read. And they're like, ow. And I'm like, I mean, I love to read. I read like the backs of, you know, cereal boxes. If I had cereal, I used to little, but I'll read anything. And some things just light you up. And some things are like, I have no idea what I just read, or I feel like that was a total waste of time. And so you can avoid all of that by testing out your messaging. And it's not that hard, you know, like we have social platforms. We've got LinkedIn, we've got YouTube, we've got podcasts, we've got Instagram, we've got Facebook, we've got all of these opportunities to test our messaging. There's no excuse. You know what I'm saying? There's no excuse. That's the harsh side of the editor. So I'm originally from New Jersey, raised in Kentucky, and I've spent most of my adult life in Tennessee. So I'm kind of a blend. So I warn people that I work with, I'm like, Jersey girl comes out sometimes. So if you're easily offended, I mean, I might not be the right one for you. You need to find someone who like grew up in the South. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I love that. Okay, so what's your like number one tip for people who do want to pursue writing their own book? What's your number one tip for them to become a better writer?
Ooh, a better writer. So when you first said, what's your number one tip? What I thought was position your audience as the hero and yourself as the mentor or guide. Like, that is the biggest tip I can give you. And the best way to do that is to tell a story that your audience resonates with. They see themselves in the story of the person you're talking about. A beautiful example of this is in the beginning of Dan Henry's book. And that's why I said yes to his book very quickly. It's remarkable, by the way, if you haven't read it, it's so good. And I didn't do a lot of ghostwriting in that one. I did a lot of editing and developmental editing, but he's a phenomenal writer. And one of the things that he would probably say to become a better writer is to just consume excellent content, consume content that other people are raving about, and just get it in your system, so everything you put in has to come out. So if you're consuming, 2-cent content, that's what's going to come out. But if you're consuming $1 million content, that's what's going to come out. So he even talks about in Digital Millionaire Secrets how he reads like old school books. Like, he goes back and back, listens to books all the time, is constantly interviewing people. He's like an idea factory. He's just constantly consuming to be able to produce. So what he does at the beginning of his book is he talks about this Uber driver who picked him up and asked the guy, what he did. And he said he combs the beaches in Florida for jewelry that people have left, gold watches, whatever. And then he, takes it to the pawn shop, and he makes side money that way. And his ultimate goal was to move to Alaska, buy land in this like Alaskan tundra, and look for gold there. And so they pull up to Dan's house, which is like this multi-million-dollar home. And the guy's like, wait, this is your house? And of course, Dan's really young. It doesn't look like he's probably the guy that lives there. And he's like, yep. And he's like, how did you, pay for this? And he said, by teaching people what I do instead of actually doing it for the rest of my life. So you could teach people this side hustle and make a lot more money than, being on the sweltering hot beaches of Florida or in the Alaskan tundra, working yourself to death. So what he did, and I don't know if he did it intentionally or not, knowing Dan, he probably did, is he positioned himself as the mentor or guide in that story. That story is not about Dan. That story is about the Uber driver. And the person picking up the book called Digital Millionaire Secrets is probably working themselves to death, making a little bit of money over a long period of time, hours and hours and hours on end. When what they could do is take what they know, package it in digital form, and sell it at scale, which is what he teaches. So the person reading the book identifies with the Uber driver and goes, oh, how am I doing that? How does that apply to me? Looks to Dan as the mentor or guide who illuminates the path to ultimate victory. And then by the end of the book, they're like, oh, maybe I could do what he did. But the whole way through, the audience is the hero. The author is the mentor or guide. And so often, I cannot tell you how many times I see this over and over and over again. The author positions themselves as the hero. They're not the hero. The audience is the hero. And they need to be able to see themselves in those first few lines as soon as they open that book. Because if the book's about the author and it doesn't show a journey that the reader wants to take, they bounce.
Wow. And that would obviously affect them continuing the journey with you as well. And that's really the most important thing that you should be hitting at the end of the day.
Brendon Burchard has another beautiful example of that in the beginning of his, what is it called? I just got it the other day. High Performance Habits. He opens with a story. Oh, you have it behind you. That's awesome. Mine's right there.
Yeah.
If you open that book, those first few paragraphs, he's having a conversation with one of his clients. The story's about her and how she's afraid. He can see it. She's a high performer. She's a high achiever. Everyone else thinks she's like knocking it out of the park, and she is. But he knows that she has more potential, and he can see her holding back. and he asks her what she's afraid of. And when the person reading that book, who is a high performer, reads it, it's like, oh, you're reading my mail. Like, this is so me. And then you trust him, because then he lays out his credentials. Then he says, this is where I got all the information for this book. Then he teaches what he says he's going to teach. And then there's a call to action at the end. Like, if you want more, if you want my team to help you, this is where you can find us. But it's not a hard sell, you know? And again, so many authors like pitch the whole time. And it's like, the best way, who was it? Mike Shreve from Peaceful Profits. He said one of his mentors, or a book that he read, said, if you want people to think that you can help them, help them. It's like, it seems so obvious, but if you put super helpful information in your book, then they believe that you can help them. And that's the whole point, right? They have problems that you can solve, and then they find out that you've helped to solve them just by reading a few pages. And how much more do you have to offer? If this is, you had to condense down what you know into this little, like Myron's book is not that big, Dan's book is not that big, Kiana's book is not that big. Like, she teaches people how to build $1 million generational wealth. It's just this big. Like, you can get started with this, but you need accountability, you need mentorship, you need community, and you need like that energy to keep you moving forward. So if you put in here what someone can do to get started and get some success, then they can either follow you online for free forever, or they can pay you to accelerate, go faster, and, be one of your success stories.
So it's really like you need to help the reader identify with you, and then take them on that journey of actually helping them get started, giving them value, giving them the path. And if they do identify, if they do get, results, or they see the path to success, then the chances of them continuing with you is like astronomically high. Yeah. And I love that. That's such in alignment with, the values that you mentioned at the start of the episode as well, regarding working with people who are, trying to create impact in the world. They're trying to make a better change, versus the people who are just like salesy, pitchy, icky.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great. So direct sales, like network marketing, has a terrible reputation. And Michelle Cunningham wrote Do It Anyway, Girl. I love this book. She's so cute and so happy and so fun. And she built a multi-million-dollar business in direct sales. And what she discovered was the people that she was working with weren't very happy with all of the free information she was giving on her YouTube channel. And she decided at some point that it kind of decided for her information business that she built to help people grow and grow and scale a network marketing business, it outpaced the network marketing business. And she was like top of the chain. So her next book this is the book that's all about starting, growing, scaling your network marketing business. And her next book is You Are a 7-Figure Brand. And it's the next step in the process. So because she was relentlessly helpful and she couldn't help but help people, she ended up growing a 7-figure brand and letting go of that first step that she took that got her from, just kind of average earnings to multi-6-figure and now 7-figure. So yeah, relentlessly helpful. And she just keeps growing, and she just gives stuff away. She's just happy and loves to share. And that this woman is one of my ideal authors. And if you're interested in knowing how to market a book, she does a remarkable job. She's a good one to follow. Like book marketing hackers, I guess, should follow Michelle Cunningham.
I've actually got Michelle coming on the show sometime soon. And she said that she actually learned a lot from Andrew Cap from the way he markets his books.
Who is that?
Andrew Cap. I'll link him in the show notes, but he basically has just also launched a book that I have somewhere. One sec. He just launched this book, 3 words I use to sell 100,000 books. And he's got a couple other ones that are similar as well. But yeah, he's a fantastic resource to follow online. And Michelle actually specifically said, I learned all of my marketing secrets from Andrew. And then she introduced me to Andrew as well. So.
Oh, I can't wait for that interview. That's awesome.
Very cool. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, that's fantastic. I love that ripple effect.
Well, it's been amazing, to be honest, Lori. I like the moment I stepped into this space, and this space is amazing as well. Like authors, like you said, are fantastic people and so much fun to work with. And since I stepped into this space, more specifically, I've just had so much, like it's almost been an open arms welcoming. Everyone's so kind. Everyone's so like open to sharing and recommending, and and like I've just felt like I've created such a fantastic network of people in just a super short amount of time. Like months, right? It's very hard to do something in a world where there's a lot of noise. Otherwise, like the internet space is very noisy, and it's very hard to step into something that is so welcoming like this.
I'm glad you found us. Happy you're here.
Me too. It's been fun. Anyway, so I'm going to wrap the episode there. Thank you so much for your time today, Lori. It's been an absolute pleasure. Is there anywhere where you would like to send people who are listening to the show?
Probably the easiest place to find me is Facebook. I'm there, every week at least. And I don't always see messages that are, what is it called when someone tries to message you and they're not your friend?
Request.
Yeah, friend or not. Yeah, I never
message request. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. But if we have anyone in common, have that person say, hey, this person's interested in talking to you. They might want to write a book or they want to pick your brain or whatever. I'm more than happy to connect. I love connecting with people. I love connecting with authors. And if I can't help you, then I know of other people who probably can. I'm, super connected in the space. And like you said, authors and people who work with books, we love information and we love relationships. And so we're very free and open with like, oh, well, maybe connect with this person or this person. And, oh, you should check out this resource or that resource. So yeah, if you want any of that, absolutely reach out. And if I don't respond, it's because I didn't see it. So just get someone, that we're both connected to, like Chris, for example, to be like, can you like tap her on the shoulder or something? And yeah, I'll turn around. It'll be great.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely make sure that it's very easy for you to find Lori in the show notes, regardless. Thanks again, Lori. It's been awesome.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you and loved having this interview with you.
Me too. Damn, what an awesome episode. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing on your podcast platform of choice so you get notified every single time a new episode releases. And if you're struggling with your book sales, head over to smartauthormedia.com/audit to get a free audit of your book sales to see where we can help you bridge the gap between not many sales to a lot of sales. It's a free resource call that we have together where I give you some clear action steps that you can take to take your stuff from broken to selling. I'll see you over there. Thanks again for listening.